Moving on, though, and plenty of young kids now own mobile phones, and there's a push to introduce a phone licence system into schools. Once upon a time, back in the 80s, mobile phones were a luxury communication tool used primarily for business. Now there are 29 million mobile subscriptions in Australia, more phones than there are people. At least 30% of children also have phones, including 6-year-olds. The technology is marketed to parents as a safety device that enables them to keep tabs on their kids. But experts warn there are also risks, such as potential exposure to radiation and pornography and cyberbullying.
Look at this. Jack and I took it when we were going out. Now we sent it to everyone.
To keep kids safe, psychologists are pushing for schools to introduce a mandatory mobile phone licence system. Similar to a driver's licence, students would have to sit a web-based test before being allowed to use mobile phones at school. The end goal? To promote safe and responsible use of mobile phones. So should phones be treated like cars? And if so, is it right for 6-year-olds to have mobile phones anyway? Psychologist Dr. Michael Carr-Gregg is advocating that schools introduce this test. Now, Michael, first things first, surely 6-year-olds just don't need mobile phones. I mean, what are they calling their parents for? To say I'm going to be late home from grade 1 because I'm having lattes with the girls?
The only reason I can think they'd want one is to prank their nanny, but apart from that, no reason at all. You're quite right. Not until they get to secondary school.
Michael, I've got a lot of regard for the things that you talk about, but surely we don't need a licence for children to work out whether they're going to get a phone or not. Isn't that called parents?
Yeah, well, happily the parents would be involved in this scheme. What we're actually finding is that a lot of the kids are making horrendous mistakes with their mobile phones, Steve. If it's not sexting, it's bullying, it's harassing. They simply don't have the skills, the knowledge or the strategies to use these mobile phones safely.
So just get the school to ring the parents up and complain about it, or take the phones off them and stick them in a big box by the door and say they can't have them.
Well, unfortunately, there's a condition known as nomophobia, which is, believe it or not, a pathological fear of not having a mobile phone. And many kids seem to be afflicted by this. 60 to 90% of the socialising that young people do is, in fact, on their mobile phone, particularly social networking. So not having your mobile phone appears to be like social death.
But surely the solution to nomophobia isn't more mobile phones and creating greater dependence on phones.
No, it's not, but it is, in fact, regulating the use of this. Schools have tried to ban them and it hasn't worked. So my idea, which was sought by the Minister of Education in Queensland, is to basically say, look, you can bring your mobile phones to school, but before you do, you actually have to show that you know the law. You have to be responsible around the use of that.
You mentioned secondary school before. Is that when you think kids should get their first mobile phone?
I think that there is no one size fits all. I think you have to ask yourself 3 questions as a parent. Does my child have a track record of making good decisions and keeping themselves safe? Do they hang out with similar people? And what sort of temperament do they have? Are they sensation seekers or are they risk averse? And on the basis of that, then I think you should give your kid a mobile phone.
You know, I actually have a lot of sympathy for both primary and secondary kids because I spent half my life texting imaginary friends.
Dr. Michael Carr-Gregg, definitely food for thought. Be interesting to see if it gets traction. Thanks for your time tonight.
Pleasure.
Your girls don't have phones, or they do?
Both do, yep.
How old are they?
They were 10 when they first got their phone.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's just a safety thing for parents these days. They don't have one of them doesn't even bother with credit, the other one loves it, but
Makes you feel better.
it's a safety thing.
I think, though, there is a point that Michael is making. Parents don't know how to deal with these complicated issues that come up because they didn't grow up with mobile phones. They didn't go through this. You do need some kind of expert to say how to navigate through all of it.
Hope I don't have to sit the licence.
I'm just disappointed kids don't have to drag the home phone with the cord through into the bathroom and shut the door so they can speak on the phone without their parents hearing.
Viewer Shale's not convinced. He says, what's wrong with string and paper cups? Well, the thing is, it's notoriously difficult to text on string and cups, Shale.
We're going to take a break. Heaps more on the way.